And for Commissioner Phillips is not able to be here, but he's on the phone via speaker. So
Okay.
if you can't hear, let me know.
Well, first of all, I have.
So please introduce yourself as you.
Okay, so here's three signed resolutions. Did you see one, Jamie?
Yeah, we've got it.
Okay, so. And I guess
I didn't see this.
I didn't. Well, now you did. Okay.
How did I not get this?
So, yeah, I'm Bob Arnold. I've been on the.
It goes back to last year.
Yeah.
Oh, from last year.
Well, no, November 18th. See,
2021.
Yeah, 2021.
Or
But I mean,
late
I
2021.
think you had forwarded it on.
Yeah, I had forwarded on before, but we got, of course, delayed due to bills passing. That's why it's a little post-dated. Okay. So anyway, I've been on the board as a public director for 25 years now, and you know, I'll get to this as far as, you know, with Bill and why I am here, but for your benefit, Mike, I don't know how much your knowledge is of the Farm Preservation Program. So we've got Craig here. He's our specialist out of the district. He can answer any questions. And Randy's
Randy Leisure. I'm on the board of the Conservation
He's
District.
our chairman. Okay.
And the young lady?
And no.
I'm Courtney Ryman, and I work for the Lebanon Valley Conservancy. So that's a little different than the Conservation District. And we're on a committee together. So if I look familiar, that'll be why.
I actually have a little bit of background and knowledge because actually when this whole thing got started back in the early 90s, one of the things that was required by the act was the county commissioners obviously had to endorse and embrace the concept, but there had to be a community, a group of community people involved in writing some letters or putting some information together for the state. And I was part of the Leadership Lebanon Valley class that year through the Chamber of Commerce, and I was on that, involved in that committee that put that together. I think it's a great concept, so we're very, very supportive.
Okay, so yeah, obviously we're not here to, you know, say anything negative about our current farmland preservation program. It's great. We have almost 20,000 acres preserved, and we really appreciate your support of that program, which you know, locks up 20,000 acres in perpetuity forever. So great. But I thought it was best to come in here after talking to Bill about the changes that we're seeing in Lebanon County that are affecting the farmland preservation program. And I don't know if, you know, some of these things you're obviously aware of, but other things it may not be. So I think it's just good to get them on a table and how it affects our program and the waiting list. So if you just want to go through our resolution in front of us. So the most part, I'm speaking for the districts because does anyone else need one? I have some unsigned ones if you'd like to follow along.
Oh, follow along. Let me bring one, a copy.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Yeah? No? Okay. Here, I'll send two over that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we adopted this resolution back in November at a meeting, and quorum was present, motion made, seconded, and it was ratified. So I just want to kind of go down through these. Again, you have any questions, please chime in. And I'll go pretty fast because I know you kind of limit us to 30 minutes. It's a complex issue with a lot of moving parts. So the first thing I put in, you know, is agriculture being the #1 industry in Lebanon County, which still many people in this county don't know. If you went out and did a poll, I'm sure you'd get lots of answers, but they just forget all about it, don't even think about it. And the #1 thing that we're here is in that same sentence, that same point about our fertile soil, some of the best in the state, probably some of the best in the country, okay? Conservation District, our mission is to you know, promote, protect the natural resources of the county, and certainly our fertile soil is a natural resource, can't be argued. You know, just as a side note, conservation districts owe their existence back in the Dust Bowl days, you know, the 30s and 40s. That's when they were all organized and developed, and so what's, we're losing all that topsoil out west. It's no different now with a farm, if it's sold out and paved over, it's lost forever, so same thing, either way you look at it. So down to the next one, I just put in some more points about our food supply, soil and water conservation, keeps demand for public services lower, and again, another point that many people do not understand is that keeps our taxes lower to support these services. All right, it's been well documented, and I'll have a little bit more of that later. And of course, retains open space, aesthetics, quality of life. So those things being what they are, again, the main one is conservation of the soil. So it's wise conservation, preserve the remaining farmland in the county for those reasons. So let's talk about the next point there, about funding. So how we get our funding from the municipality, the county, and the state budgets. This present method of funding, we preserved 3,000 acres of farmland in the last decade, okay? 2011 to 2020, 3,000 acres. And by contrast, 9,000 acres of the county were developed over the same time period, okay? So we're losing about 1,000 acres a year, all right? I have some figures I dug up. Craig gave me some of these. But in 1950, we had 150,000 acres of farmland in this county. 67 years later, we're down to 110,000 acres of farmland. That's 67 years, losing acreage there. If you divide it out, about 600 acres a year lost.
So when you're saying losing 1,000 a year, you're talking losing 1,000 farmland, not just undeveloped.
Correct, farmland, yep. So the next ag census, I forget who does that, that's ag census, but there's one due now, and they do it every 5 years. In 2022, don't know what the figure's going to be, but the 1,000 acre loss, that corresponds pretty much with our E&S figures over the last decade, 1,000 a year. When somebody goes out, anything over 1 acre, you have to get permitted. We keep track of all that acreage, and it comes out to about 1,000 acres a year. Okay, we're losing right now. Okay, so I want to go into, I don't know how you are pretty much familiar then with the current Farmland Preservation Program, Mike, and how it works. I mean, okay, well then we'll just move on. Okay, so now down at the bottom there, we have 30 farms representing 2,900 acres on the waiting list to be preserved, and the total cost of that would be about $7.5 million. Okay, does everyone understand how the waiting list kind of works? If you want to explain that to them, Craig.
Yeah, we rank every farm based off a few criteria: developmental pressure, farmland potential, and then most of its soils. So then we take the score and we rank it compared to each farm, and then we have a ranking list and we work our way top down. At the moment, we don't work out a ranking order unless very specific circumstance, so we're just working our way top down from the best farmland to the least on our application list.
Mm-hmm. And the number comes from a typical cost per acre that is paid, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And what is that typically now? There's a maximum.
We cap out at $2,500 per acre, and in the past 10 years, nobody's gotten below that. It's usually around $3,000, the appraised. So yeah, we're pretty consistently paying the $2,500 per acre.
So with the funding that we get every year, which is about $1 million, we're able to usually preserve like 2 to 3 farms. Correct me if I'm wrong in any of this.
It depends on the size.
Yep.
Yeah, so either 2 to 5.
Right. So we got this ranking. So on the list there, so some of these farmers can be on this list for a very long time. As a matter of fact, we have the Snyder farm that's been on this list for 13 years, all right? And you never move up the list if other farms come in that rank higher above you, okay? We've got other farms that are on for 12 years, all right? They're just sitting and waiting for the money, all right? In the meantime, if some developer comes in and wants to offer them the money, you know, big bucks, hey, they might, you know, bite at it and it's gone. We lost that farm. All right. So 30 on the list, and I don't know, Randy, you're on the list yourself. He has a
I'm
farm.
one of those 12, 13 year.
Waiting and waiting. And I really, you know, I really think that's pretty admirable of some folks to wait that long to try and get their farm preserved, that they don't sell out. So I want to go to, you know, a little bit about what the big change is right now in the county. Again, I'm sure you're aware of some of these things. I mentioned about the acreage. So let's talk about, you know, the housing boom, what's going on. Obviously, everyone's seeing development out there. So number one, okay, nothing's changed. Lebanon County is still a prime location due to where we are. I mean, if you want to get to the big city in 2 or 3 hours, you can. We still are here in little Lebanon County, and I joked with Craig coming up. I said, I remember, or Randy, I said, years ago, when, you know, going back 40, 50 years, I had where to live, Lebanon County, that we just, Lebanon County, what's there? Well, a lot of people have found out since that there's quite a bit of an advantage to being in this location. So that hasn't changed. Obviously, the county population is growing fast. The latest census figures, I think probably everyone has seen that. That came out, this one just came out last week about from Channel 27 saying that we're one of the fastest growing counties in the state, the second fastest growing. They're saying 9.1% population change, someone else at 7.3, but regardless, we're still the second fastest county, little old Lebanon County. That's people coming in there. It was 12,000 people recorded in the last, 12,000 more in the last census. So, you know, these are facts that can't be argued. Where are most of them gone? They're saying North Londonderry Township, Cleona, Pleasant Hill areas. So, you know, why are they coming in here? Okay, I mentioned one thing about prime location. The other thing, okay, obviously all these people need housing, no doubt about that. But more recently now with the pandemic, more people are coming in, leaving these neighboring states, New Jersey, New York. They're leaving the big cities because of the high crime, high taxes. And again, they can come up here to Lebanon County, much lower taxes, very safe living conditions, and they can buy a house for, you know, they can have $1 million house down in New Jersey, come up here and get the same thing for $500,000 and think they hit the lottery. I mean, it's just amazing, you know, I continue to hear that from our E&S guy, Carl, who is out there with these developers and talking about it. And so that's, you know, more people coming in from there. So the third thing that I think is going on is, you know, Lancaster County's proximity to us. Right below us, 30, 45-minute drive, and land down there, what's left down there to be developed is very high priced. Okay, so now the Lancaster County developers have moved up here. You guys drive around, you can, Landmark's one of the big ones, but these are all Garmin, Wolfson, Keystone, Hess, all from Lancaster County. It's only a 30-minute drive to bring their construction crew up here and develop the land. It's still cheap, and I mentioned all these people coming in for the housing. They aren't building these houses up here if people aren't coming in to buy them. Okay. So I live over there near the Creekside development, and that's been going on for about 10 years. I don't know, maybe about 150 homes. And I lived there from the day the first house went in to the last house, okay? And just it seemed like the first half of that took like 7, 8, 9 years to get full. And then they went to the back part of it. And I never saw houses go up so fast and disappear so quickly with sold signs in just the last 2 years. There must have been 50 of those homes that were sold. Just there's not, so they finished the last one. It's completely full, and one of the funniest things I saw was, you know, they were working Monday to Saturday, and they even had I looked out the back door, the 4th of July, and they're up working on the roof. On the 4th of July. It's like amazing, you know, just to get these things done for these buyers. So, you know, I drive around the county, there's, you know, I get this information from Carl Kirchner about the developments that are planned to go in. There's a 200-acre one up in North London area, which I mentioned, 533 homes up there. There's another one proposed behind Cleona. These are ones that are proposed, not ones that already came in. Across from former Wengert's Dairy, I'm sure anyone driving by there, you can't miss that. 271 more houses there on 185 acres. Okay, so, you know, it's not the old days where you see one house built here or there. These are hundreds of acres disappearing in one big shot, you know, hundreds of homes, all right? And I understand everyone needs a place to live. Hey, we all live in homes too. But, again, the gist of this is they're being built on top-notch soil, fertile soil, okay? You know, we're all about, we want wise, smart development. We should be pushing the development. If we had our way to do it, to the northern part of the county where the soil's not as good, okay? And that's, again, those are facts. All the soil's been mapped out, all right? So that's fact. So another one, I mentioned that. I want to go to the fiscal thing here about, I mentioned about the taxes. And hey, there's been many studies done on the taxes about, you know, building these single-family residences increases your taxes, all right? This is the Penn State one. It's been well documented, but, you know, I really cringe when people come in and want to put in a housing development and they get in front of the township supervisor and say it's going to increase the tax base. You know, that is totally false. Single-family residential developments are a net drain on the community's fiscal resources. That's been proven many times. That shouldn't even be talked about anymore. So that's because residential developments require costly school, road, utility, police, fire protection services. Okay. So I just wanted to mention that again, and you know, if anyone wants to copy that, I'd be glad to give it to them. So let's you know, look at the commercial and the industrial uses that are coming into the county, all right? Again, if they do, the land's gone forever, if it's paved over. So I'm talking personally here about that Walmart warehouse out there across from Heisey's Diner, okay? And I've lived in this county for 66 years, and I'm telling you, when I saw that warehouse in there, in my mind, that is one of the worst land use decisions I've ever seen as long as I've been a resident of this county. Why that warehouse located there, I don't know the reasons, but I'm sure it comes down to economics. It always does. But why it isn't out there along the interstates where all the rest of the warehouses and they can ship their goods all over the place where it needs to be, I don't understand. But again, it probably comes down to the economics. There went another, you know, 88 acres of, and that's not the top farmland, but it's good farmland out there, okay? Gone forever. When I want to jump ahead to the back of this resolution. Hey, we couldn't stop them, all right? The land was zoned for commercial, all right? So we could not stop them. I understand townships got to have the zoning to accommodate all uses, but it just seems like, you know, a bad place for a warehouse. And now we're going to have all these trucks coming out on the little 72 and clog our streets up. That's, you know, that one just boggles my mind. So, okay, so we can't stop them from coming in, but let's say we had a agricultural mitigation fee, and that's what we're talking about here. Let's say it was $1,000 an acre that they would have to pay the township over there that they're in, North Lebanon, you know, $88,000, okay? And we use that money then to go over into the Farmland Preservation Program. We got 30 farms on there, okay? It's gonna take years and years to protect them all. We can go ahead and use that money to secure easements on these farms, you know. Might not get a farm, but it goes towards it. So let's move on then. I'll get back to that. So now we got the new guys that are coming in the land hunt, and that's the energy company. I mean, everyone's familiar with what's going out there with the solar thing. And, you know, we've not taken a position, the district hasn't, on solar power. You know, hey, I favor solar power, but in my mind, and I think in the district's mind, I know in the district minds, the fertile soil trumps any other use. Because again, once the soil's paved over, it's gone. Now there's discussion discussion about whether, you know, you can use it later on after 30 years. Let's not, you know, I'm not here to deliberate about that. But what I do know is 2 of those farms out there were on the waiting list to be preserved. And the solar company came in and offered them, you know, big bucks to go ahead and put the solar farm in. So I'm going to say we potentially lost them because it hasn't been finalized yet that it's gone in. But had we had the funding, okay, those 2 farms would have been preserved in perpetuity. Maybe the solar energy guys would have looked elsewhere. I don't know, but I at least know those 2 farms would have been preserved. We know those easements last forever, okay? You can talk about zoning and deed restrictions and ASAs, but we know that, thank God, the courts, they stand up for these agricultural easements no matter what. The last thing we saw, a good example, was up in Cumberland County there when the school wanted to annex the preserve farm right aside of them, and they shot them down. They've had people knock down brand new housing that went in after they bought a preserve farm and thought they were going to put one up. So they gave us that out to, like, okay, this farmland, this soil is important, and it's going to stay that way with these easements. So again, we acknowledge the farmer's right to sell. If they want to sell, that's their business, okay? We acknowledge that. All right, so I mentioned that, you know, our concern now, not just with the solar companies, our concern now is we may lose our chance now to preserve some of these farms that are on our list, 30 farms, okay? We need $7.5 million. We're not here to ask the county for money. How often does that happen, by the way? Not too often. We think there's a way that we can get some money, all right? And that's by going to these developers, okay? And having these developers, you know, provide us with some, you know, fee money that we put towards the preservation program. In the meantime, you know, with the farming practices, some of these farmers on this list, they're getting tired of waiting, and they could decide to sell out, and we could lose them. I don't want to see, I say only 3,000 acres for these 30 farms, but that's 3,000 acres we could be sitting on today, and we could have 23,000 acres. We don't know how many more we're gonna have the opportunity to preserve. We just don't know. So, you know, maybe a solar company, maybe another warehouse comes in, maybe a housing development comes in, and, you know, they spot a chunk of land and it's, you know, 100 acres, and there's a preserve farm, or not a preserve farm, a guy on the waiting list aside of it, and say, hey, man, it'd be good to have that piece of land. And somebody's, well, it's on, you know, he's on the waiting list. Well, let's go over and make him a better offer. And bang, it's gone. It's paved over. We can't do anything with it. So, back to the last page then. So what we're thinking about is, first of all, for the district, you know, we advise, you know, strongly advise, you know, the county, you know, I just put this in here for now because I don't know the real specifics of how we would get to this point. But we'd like to see, you know, an establishment and establish and assess a per acre fee on any county property transfer that incurs a permanent loss of farmland. So obviously, a housing development, it's permanently gone. There's no farming there whatsoever anymore. A warehouse, you can't argue with that. A factory, you can't argue with that. So they would pay a fee to the municipality and forward it to the district for the Farmland Preservation Program. And the good thing is, when I was talking to Bill, about this, and he said, I get back to this. We have our meeting every year with the legislators out at the you weren't able to make it this year, Joellen. Our legislative breakfast. And anyway, Bill was there, and our state senators were there, and we were talking about increasing funding.
Was this up at Mill?
No, this was over at the Expo Center. Yeah. At the Expo Center.
Because I was on several of the farm
You were
tours.
tied up. Yeah.
Usually every spring, end of May, early
Yeah.
June, we have a legislative open house where we invite
Yeah.
all our legislators, the commissioners, our senator, our
Yeah.
representatives, and just have a big
Yeah.
roundtable open house discussion. And it just happened to be this last year because of the pandemic and stuff. We had it at the expo.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but that's where you're.
Yeah. So we talked about, I don't know if it was in specific reference to Walmart warehouse or not, but we talked about LERTA, where we give tax breaks to these companies to come in, okay? So he said, Bill's there, so he stood up and said so we're giving these tax breaks to these developers, and right after he spoke, I said, hey, we need more funding. We're losing farmland. We got 30 people on the waiting list. He said, well, this is crazy. He goes, we're paying our developers to essentially paving over our farmland, and here we are on the other side, we're losing our farmland. He said, it just doesn't make any sense. Why should we be giving them the incentive to come in here? Again, farming is the #1 industry. You can't really argue, about the job situation. It's a non-issue. So I just want to summarize here. All I said, the landscape of the county is changing rapidly. I don't think any of us have seen this kind of change. And when's it going to stop? I mean, you can't stop development. You can't stop growth. People are just coming in here. The figures and facts prove it. We at the district, we're not anti-development. We just support smart, responsible growth. And there's been some good examples in this county of smart growth. I mean, over there where Rudders, we had to look at the old Agway mess there at 16th and Cumberland for years and years, and Rudders went in there. Good idea. Out there in South Lebanon, where the old Alcoa plant burned to the ground, there was the footprint in the ground already. So now we got the trucking firm. Hey, it was already there. The utilities are there. That's good, smart growth, development. But having development, especially south of 422, the best soils being paved over, whatever, is not smart development. We should be keeping as much in that, protecting as much as that as we can. And we're blessed with prime fertile soil which can't be replaced. Okay, we should preserve as much as possible of this natural resource. That's what our mission is. We believe developers can assist the effort through agricultural land mitigation fees, which are forwarded to the county farm preservation program to secure more easements. So I gave you what Bill had to say to me, and I told him, I told his widow, I said, what we were working on, I said, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing this. I said, I just don't want to see us become another county of just urban sprawl, and it's all gone. So the good thing is, one good thing I've thought about, was, all right, these, agricultural mitigation fees. So, hey, went to the computer, punched that in there, and yes, there's 2 states that it is legal, California and Vermont, okay? Overview of legal restraints on ag land mitigation programs. And it was taken to court, the state Supreme Court, by many folks out there, and they were all shot down. It is legal to charge developers a fee to offset the loss of agricultural land. And Vermont did the same thing. Okay, they also have a program in place up there. So where it goes from here, I mean, if we wanted to go that route, if we have to go ahead and develop, someone sponsor some legislation and get it written, or if you can just bypass that and go to the municipalities and get them to, adopt what I call it a development fee. I don't know. I don't know the legality of it, but I can tell you one thing: we're here to support it. If someone wants to run with this, and that's kind of my shtick, where I'm at.
But in the interest of time, we have a group scheduled to be on next. But for myself, I have some interest in this, but obviously we have to do our homework to find out who would do it, how we'd do that, if it were possible.
Yep.
So, Joan, do you have a question or comment?
I have a comment. You're preaching to the choir when it comes to farmland
Yep.
preservation. I've been doing this the entire
I know you
time
have. Yep.
that I have been a commissioner, pushing it very hard. I'm now also the liaison to both the Conservation District and Farmland Preservation. I was the president of the League of Women Voters that brought this issue to the attention of then commissioners in office. We had a big meeting down in the cafeteria, not the cafeteria, the auditorium. But the point that I wanted to bring to you, Bob, is that while as convincing as your arguments are, and many of us agree with you on 99%, we have to listen to all voices, including the small ones that might not be as loud. And the small voice that I listened to spoke volumes to me when in Commissioner Ames' absence, because he had passed away, and you weren't seated yet, Commissioner Kuhn, I went to a Farmland Preservation Board. Now, Craig was there, and I was trying to get you to listen to them directly, because I don't want to misinterpret anything. But since they're not here, and I only got notice of this and figured that you were going to be here today within less than 24 hours, I have to speak the best I can for that small voice. That small voice of farmers in that room said, and this is my interpretation of what I heard because they gave me an earful. This is going to take money out of our pockets when we sell our farms to our children or the next generation of farmer who might not be a relative, but just to find another farmer is a find. They are concerned that if they have 100 acres at $1,000 an acre, they're going to lose $100,000 of their sale, whatever. And so not only are you penalizing the developers, you're hitting the very people who are in there preserving the farms for this county. Think about that. Go to them, get it from them. I don't want to misspeak.
Well, I was at the meeting with Craig in November, and I went through this resolution from page 1 to page 2 and every paragraph between, and not a single one of them stood up and opposed any of this.
They had to analyze it. They had to run the numbers. Time has elapsed.
Well,
they spoke to me. I'm passing it on to you. You need to follow up.
Well, I'm just saying, they went through it, and again, the one chair, I think it was board chairman, did question, well, is this legal or not? But I said, well, it all has to be worked out. I don't know, but that was something he mentioned. But I said, again, I come back to, there's 30 farms on the waiting list that want to be preserved, okay? We don't have the money to do it. If those folks if they are worried about how much money they're gonna get, obviously they're not looking to preserve their farm. They want to sell out. We recognize a farmer's right to sell out. They can sell to whoever they can. We just want to preserve what we can preserve before it's all gone.
And it's just in response. I hear your
Yeah,
concern.
it's
obviously
the
something.
preserved
Again, we're not
farms,
being asked for any
the
action.
farms on the waiting list. They're all getting penalized and they want to preserve. So you're not just preserving the big guys, I'm penalizing the big guys, you're penalizing the farmers too.
And we need to keep that in consideration.
You need to hear them.
But we're not being asked for any action
No,
today.
you need to hear
But this is
them.
definitely something we should look into and give consideration to.
Yeah.
And
They got
note
my
that there
ear.
may be
That's all I'm
concerns from
saying.
some farmers.
Well, I
and-
wish they would have spoken up when I was there, but no one,
I understand this would not really impact somebody selling a farm to a
Yeah.
family member. It would be for developers.
Yeah,
So again,
right.
let's.
No, his quote was, any county property. Those were your exact words.
Well, Like I said, we're
Yeah.
not being asked for any action today, so
Yeah.
just in the interest of time, is there any other additional information? Commissioner Phillips, do you have any questions or comments?
Only comment is to thank this group for their endurance and perseverance, and I think some cases it's been decades of service to the county, and it's much appreciated, and I'll make sure that I give good weight to all the literature that you've left behind.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, just quickly that, yeah, this was just one option of how to raise additional funds to help preserve farms. And that's all it is. It's an option
Yep.
for everyone to consider. It's worked very similar to the way that the MPC authorizes municipalities to collect your parks and recreation fee from suburban housing developments. There's a per acre fee that everybody's allowed to collect. Some do, some don't, it varies quite a bit. It would work on the same principle, but that's all it is. It's a proposal, it's a way to help generate additional funds in certain instances when that farmland will be lost to development. So it's just a proposal for you to consider. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate yours.
Yep.
And echo
Yes,
just
thank
a-
you all.
Yeah.
Sure.
thank
I
you.
just
God
needed
bless
to
you.
give you that message.
Yeah, that's okay.
No
All right.
problem.
Yeah.
Yep.